This is part 2 of a grade 11 RT or information technology exam paper for the practical paper 1, and we are doing a database question. Now the scenario is that we are the RT managers of a magical kingdom and we are dealing with this database. So you can see they talk about the database. They give me the details. It's about creatures in the database. There's a creature ID, there's a creature type, there's a color, there's a weight, there's a habitat, and last seen. So there we can see examples of the data. What I've done is I've actually put another image of the database table here so I can refer back to that when I'm scrolling through all the questions. And the connection has been done, and we need to do questions or write code based on TBL creatures. So let's get straight into it. Question 2.1. Complete the code for button Q21 that displays all the creature IDs and creature types of all the purple creatures. Color is purple, so we want to look. So if you can look at the data, you can see it's only one color. So we want to find all the purple creatures, and we display it in the rich summary, rich edit control. So it must look something like that. So I've got the program open over here. I'm going to go to, there's Q21 for the purple creature. So let's double click on it. They've already done the heading in that for me. That's great. So I'm going to go through this table. If you think about it logically, I'm going to be going through this table, and if the color is a purple, then we're going to go get the creature ID and the creature type. That's basically what I do. So I'll be searching from the first one to the last one. So we are traversing through each and every record. So we're going to start with TBL creatures. Now, do they mention anything about a data module? If you look at the details, no. Do they mention anything about a data module? No, they don't. So therefore, I think we just need to say TBL creatures. So TBL creatures dot first. If that didn't work, then you would have probably had to look for a data module dot TBL creatures, but TBL dot first, and then we're going to go while not TBL creatures dot end of file, and then inside of this at some point we're going to have to move to the next creature because we are done with the first one, TBL creatures dot next, and that's my basic structure for when I'm going from the first to the last record of a database. Now, all I'm doing each and every time is I'm checking if the field, the color field, do you remember that? If the color field, just color like that. So how do I access the value in that? It's TBL creatures, and in square bracket as a text field, we're going to say color. If that field, go fetch that field of the first one and check if it's equal to purple, which I'm assuming is text because that's what it looks like. And you can also go check on here if you went a bit above it, tell you that the color is of text data type. So that's another way to check. If that is true, then what do we want to do? We want to add to the rich summary dot lines dot add. We want to add, what do we want to add? We want to add first, let's look at the question, first the ID, then a bit of a gap, that's a #9, and then the creature type, I think it is. We want to get the creature ID and then the creature type. That's what we want to get. So in here, we're going to say, okay, we're going to add, go fetch the creature's creature ID. Do you see how I get that? And then I'm going to add a #9, and then I'm going to put in TBL creatures, the creature type. Now it must be spelled exactly like it is in the database. Those are the heading names. If we spell it incorrect, it's going to go, I don't know what that name is. So that's what we're looking for. And I don't need this tab here. I'm going to just put a part there. So go fetch the creature ID, go put a tab, and then go fetch the creature type. And we do that for all of them. So let's check. Is there anything else they want? Is that it? That's all they want. So let's go test it to see if it works. So we're going to go to the first one, check if it's purple, display it. If it's not, we move to, or it doesn't matter if it's not. Once it's done that, it goes to the next one. Check if it's purple. If it's not, it doesn't do anything. It just goes to the next one. But if it is purple, it'll display it and then goes to the next one. So it keeps doing that. Let's run it and see what it does. So there it's run. So we're going to click on purple creatures. Oh, there we go. Does that match what my data looks like? That looks like it's exactly the same. There we go. So we know we got it right. There we go. Perfect. Let's move on to the next question. 2.2. Complete the code for button Q22 that displays the creature ID, creature type, and the habitat of the creature. So if you remember, there is a habitat. So there's the habitat. So we want that as well. Of the most recently seen creature. Last seen is the least number of days. You'll see there is a last seen. That's the number of days when the creature was last seen. So to determine the most recently seen creature, we want that number to be the smallest. Whatever is the smallest last seen number is the one we must display. So we need to find the smallest last seen. That's basically what we are doing. And when we find it, we need to record that what is the smallest last scene, but we also need to record the creature type, the creature ID, and its habitat. So think about that for a moment. So let's go to that button. It's over there. There it is. Boom, boom, boom. Let's write it. This is basically a min problem. So I'm going to make an rmin variable, which is an integer because I think last seen is the number of days. If we double check there, if we go up here, last seen is an integer type, number of days. That's fantastic. So we're going to go. So to do a min problem, we set rmin to the opposite of what it is. So we want to find a small number. So we make it a really, really, really big number. Let's make it really, really big. And then we're going to go through every record, which means we're going to go to the first one. We're going to say while not tbl creatures dot end of file, and inside here we're going to go to each one and at some point move on to the next one, and we're trying to find the smallest one. So how do we do that? Well, if tbl creatures, and we're looking at the last scene. So last scene, now is that spelt with one word, Mr. Long? Let's go double check. Let's go look. Last seen, you can see it's spelled with no spaces, so we get some clarity there. If last seen is less than rmin, that means we have found a new min number. That's great. If that's true, then we must set rmin to this new tbl creatures last seen, because we have now found the smallest number. When we find the smallest number, we're going to obviously move on to the next and so on. So we are never going to come back to this. I don't want to have to loop through all this again and find the smallest number again and all that. So while we've recorded the new smallest number, how about we also record the creature, I think that's the type, the creature ID, and the habitat. While we are here, we have just found one which we think is the smallest. So let's record those other three things. So we want, I think it's a string. Double check. That looks like it's a string. That looks like a string. And you can always just double check over here. There we go. String, yeah, text, and habitat's also text, obviously. So that's great. So let's go and say, okay, I'm going to make three variables: s type, sid, and shab for habitat. They're all my type strings. And the moment I find the smallest one, I'm going to say, okay, well, s type, we're going to record at this particular point. And I can actually just copy this. This is going to make my life a bit easier. Just copy that, and that's going to be creature type. And then the next one will be SID, which would be creature ID. And then the next one is going to be shab, which is going to be the habitat, whatever that, I think it's just habitat, the word habitat. And you can double check, obviously, over there. Habitat is just like that. There we go. That's great. We go to the first one. We check if that's our new smallest one, and if it is, we record the new small and we record all that. If we eventually find another one that's smaller than that, then we'll record that as the new last scene, and then we'll re-record the type, the ID, and the habitat of that one that we just found. That way, I don't need to loop through this again to find out the details of the one that's the smallest. I would only do that if there are multiple creatures that could have been found on that day. If there are multiple creatures that are on the last scene, then I would first find the last scene and then loop through again. And any one that the last scene matches my min, I would then display those details. So then I'm going to come over here and say rich edit summary.lines.add, and I'm going to go ahead and quickly write it so that it looks like that. So I went into that. So once the loop has completed, once this while loop has finished, I'm then going to take that S type that I recorded, take a little bit of a bracket, then go to get the ID that I recorded, and then the last scene. Remember, this has to happen at the end once I've done all the searching. And once I've gone through all of them, then I know that once this loop is finished, that I do have the correct last scene, the one that's the smallest, and all the details of that particular one. So let's go test it to see if it works. You click on most recently seen, and there we go. I'll just put a space over there to get that correct, but we can see that the data is correct. So to fix this up, I'm going to just put a little space there, and then we know that that one is correct. So let's go save all, and let's move on to the next one. So 2.3, code has been provided to assign the creature type, habitat, and color of a newly found creature in the land to variables. Complete the code for this Q23 that adds a new member to TBL creatures table. So we're inserting a new record. Each creature has a unique creature ID that consists of a 3-digit number and 2 capital letters. Create and assign a creature ID. So we need to make this unique ID. The creature has a unique 3-digit number in its ID, the last creature in TBL creatures will have the largest 3-digit number. So if the last creature has the largest 3-digit number, then we must just take that number and add 1 onto it, and that will be the most recent one, and use the 2 letters of the creature type for the first 2 letters of the capital letter code. That's great. So we're going to construct that. Let's go try to do that. So first of all, we need to find the biggest number in the database. So this is when we're going to add the creature. Let's click on it. So they've already got the details. So we need to first determine what is the biggest number in the database. Now you'll notice that you see their creature ID. You see it's already sorted in ascending order by creature ID. So the very last one will have the biggest 3-digit number in front of it. So it's already sorted there by number. If you look at the mark allocation, we want to add values to the database and we want to construct a 3-digit code. That's not a lot of marks if we still have to go through all the records and try to find the biggest one. And so because it's already sorted, I think the easiest one, and they've actually mentioned there, they said that the last creature will have the largest 3-digit code. They've already told us that's a clue, the last one. So let's go to the last record and get that ID. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to actually, I've got the ID there, actually going to go and get the number. So I'm going to get an R number of type integer. And so look what I do here. I'm going to go to the last record. How do I do that? Well, TBL creatures dot last. Instead of going dot first, I'm going to go to the last one. So now I'm at the last one. Our number, I want to take whatever is the last value's number. So let's look at that data. We want to get the first 3 digits of creature ID. So think about that first. So I'm going to copy from TBL creatures. I want to get the creature ID. I'm going to copy from there, starting at position 1 for 3 characters. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take that and copy for the first 2 characters. Now that's going to return a string, and this is a number. I'm going to convert it from a string to an int so that it converts that 3-digit number from text into an actual number. And then I'm actually, and that's going to be the biggest number, and I want to make it slightly bigger. So I'm just going to take, once it's done that conversion, I'm just going to plus 1. I'm going to show you another way of doing it where we do it at the end, but let's just do that. So I'm going to do that. So now if I create the ID, so SID is going to be whatever this R number is plus 1. So if you haven't done the plus 1 at the end here, you can take that number plus 1 onto it, and we're going to convert it from a integer to a string because we need to make it into a string, and then we're going to add onto it. What did they specify? They said the first 2 letters of the creature type, it must be capital letters, so remember that. So whatever the creature type is, so you'll see there, you see there G-O, Gorgon. So the first 2 letters of the creature type. So we're going to copy the first 2 letters of the type that we want to insert. So we want to copy from S type for 2 characters, starting at the first one for 2 characters. But remember, we want that in capital letters. So I'm going to make that upper. And so that is how I construct my unique code. I think it's uppercase. We go and get the last number in the database. We take that number, convert it to an integer so that we can add 1 onto it mathematically, convert it back into a string, and then take the first 2 letters of the type, make it uppercase, add that on. So I've now got my code. That seems quite simple. Now we can insert all these details. So TBL creatures dot insert. So we don't need to go to the last, we don't need to do anything, you don't need to search, we can just simply insert. And now we say TBL creatures, and we're going to give the creature ID is going to be whatever is in SID that we just constructed. And I'm just going to copy and paste this a couple of times because we need to put in the type, the habitat, and the color. So creature type will be whatever is in S type. I'm using these variables that have been allocated already. The habitat must be S habitat, and the color must be S color. Now I'm just using those variables and make sure that these are spelled exactly like it is in the database. And then the last step, TBL creatures dot post. So let's see if that works. So let's try it. It's obviously only going to put in 1 value, and that's it, but that's fine. Let's try it. So we're going to come here, boom, and we're going to add a creature. So let's go to the last one. Do you see that's 993? That's ogre. There's a brown ogre. So let's go back to the top. Okay, add a creature, and boom, at the bottom 994 DR because it's a dragon red, and the other details were left out because we didn't do anything for that. Did they ask me to do anything for that? Can't remember. No, they just said those values. Okay, so there we go. So it's all done. Great. Let's move on to 2.4. Question 2.4. code has been provided that prompts the user for a creature type. Complete the code for BTN-Q24 that removes all creatures from the table with that creature type. So we're deleting all of these creatures. And we must show a message to say how many creatures were removed. Okay, so let's first do the removing part. We're going to come back to delete a creature type. So we're already going to be asked for a particular creature type. So they asked for, like in this case, dragon. We must remove all of them. So we need to go through each and every record. So we're going to do that .tbl creatures.first while not in the file. Next again, while not tbl creatures. Whenever you are going through each and every record, then this is what you need to do, tbl creatures. And then at some point we'll have to go tbl creatures.next. Okay, so what are we doing? We are going to check first if the type of the one that we're looking at, the first one, is the same as that type. So we don't want to delete all of them. If tbl creatures and the creature type, if that is the same as S type, as the one that we are looking for, then what do we want to do? Then we want to go tbl creatures.delete. And then we go to the next one. And then it goes, okay, is that one of the same type as dragon? Then delete. And so, however, just a little tip, whenever you are deleting, it will delete and then move automatically to the next one. And this is a problem here now, because if you think about it, if we've got, let's say we've got dragon, gorgon. So if that's the case, if it finds, hey, that's dragon, so it will delete it and automatically move to the next one. And then it'll go next, so it'll move here, and then it'll check if that is the, so it actually skips one. So if two are next to each other, it will skip one of them. So that is why whenever you are deleting inside of a traverse, when you're going first, not end of file, dot next, whenever you are deleting inside of that, you mustn't go delete and then next. You must go delete or next. So we're going to say if it's not deleting, then we move to the next, because there's already a built-in next when we delete. So that's my tip for you. Okay, so that's going to delete all the dragons, but that's not all that they want. They also want us to say how many were deleted, and you have to have some sort of count variable. So I'm going to say count, type integer, and we are going to initialize our count. Our count is equal to 0. And then whenever we do a delete, not only are we deleting, but we are increasing our count. And then, oh, not that 9, we're going to put a bracket there. And then we're going to display, after everything's done, we can then go show message and then display that message. Count plus creatures removed. Convert that from an int to a string. So I went ahead and wrote it. So we display the count variable and the text creatures removed, but I converted this from an int to a string for the show message. Let's go test it. When I click on delete type and I say dragon, delete them, boom, and it says 6 creatures removed. Why does it say 6 and not 5? Remember, we added a creature. So let's restore the database, and this is double check. So it's all back to default, which means that creature we added is not there and all the dragons are back. Let's try delete now. Dragon. 5 creatures. There we go. So that 6th one was obviously for the one that we added. There we go. So we know it's working. Great. Let's move on to the final question. Complete the code for BTN-Q25 that will display a list of creature types of all the creatures that appear once in the TBL creatures table. There's only one record with that creature type in the entire table. So there's only one dragon. It must only display. Otherwise, it mustn't display. Display the creature type of these creatures in this list box. Marks will be awarded for efficiency if you only use one loop. Ooh, that's making it more challenging. Code has been provided to sort the creatures according to creature type. So that's interesting. How does that affect things? That's obviously a clue on what we can do. Okay, so let's think about that. So we're going to create a solo list and put it into this list box. If it's sorted, so they've already done the sort, that means we can have things like this. So dragon, and then dragon again, and then fairy, and then, I don't know, let's say gorgon. Okay, let's take that scenario. So we know in this case, fairy, I don't know if I've spelled it correctly. Fairy is unique in this case. If we think about it logically, how do we know if something's unique? Well, I know that something's unique if it's sorted according to creature type. Do you notice it's unique if I take a field and it is not the same as the one above it and the one below it? If it's got a different type to the one above it and below it, that means that it is not the same. If there are multiple dragons, then obviously that's the same as the one after it, and that one's the same as the one before and after, and that one's the same as the one before it. But when it gets to here, that's not the same as that one, not the same as that one. So that's how I know fairy is unique. So I think we're going to be doing something where we check with the previous one and the one coming after it. Okay, so that's what we need to look at. And so I know I'm going to be going through all of the creatures. So I'm going to go creatures.first while not TBL creatures dot end of file, and we know we're going to be going through each and every one. So at some point we're going to go tbl creatures dot next. Okay, so what do? We need now they've given me a clue here. They're giving me a before and after and a current. When I go and I look at the creature, so let's have a look here. If I go to a creature, I'm going to I might do the next twice. Okay, so wait, let's have a look. So I'm going to first record the creature that we are at. So this will be the before, or the current one. So let's go current. Let's go s current is equal to tbl creatures, and I'm looking at the creature type in all of these, right? So the creature type. So I've just recorded the current one. Then I'm going to go creatures.next. Now I will be at the next one. So I'm actually going to make that one s after, because that's the next creature, and that I'm going to record its creature type because I've moved on to the next record, and now I've got the after one. And now I will, let's assume before is nothing, because the first time we do it, the before doesn't have a value. So s before, let's give it a nothing value for the first one. Let's just see if we can get the first one working. So that's equals to nothing. So we're going to go creature, go get that one, go get the after one, and we're going to ask the question, if the current creature is not the same as s before, that's the one scenario, and at the same time s current is not the same as the one after, then do you agree we have a unique creature? Then I'm going to say the list box. Now how do we add to a list box? It's .items.add. We're going to add this creature, or whatever the current one is, s current, because that's obviously the one that we are looking at. Okay, so what I've done is I've got a little list here just so we can test it out. At the start, we make before equal to nothing. So I'm going to put a little X there because it's nothing. Okay, just pretend it's nothing. Then we go to the first record, which we are there, and we record that value, you can see there, into the current. So that becomes an A. Then we move to the next record, and that becomes an A. So let's ask the following question. Is the current the same as X? No, it's not. But is it the same as after? Yes, it is. So therefore, that is not a unique situation. The other scenario, if you don't know, the other scenario is that the first one is a unique one. Well, in that case, if we do that, we initialize the before to an X. The current becomes an A, and the after becomes a B, and in that case, yes, those are different. So there we go. So therefore A is unique, so therefore it will display A. That works. That's great. Okay, now when it does that, so let's go back to this one. Okay, so it was this originally, so there it didn't display. So then it's going to move back up here. When we get to the second iteration, remember we currently at that one, we want this one now that we are at to become the current, which is what will happen, because you can see their current will equal to the one that we had. So this current will change not to that A, but to this A, which is, so it'll go to an A. And then the next one after it will become an A. But we had no way of recording the before. So maybe this is what we do. After we've done this display, we actually go, okay, we've done everything here. When we go to the next round, now that we've done the current and the after, the current one is now going to become the before for the next time we do this. So I'm going to set s before to whatever is s current, because that one is going to become the before for the next one. So just to clarify, so at the moment there is no before, so we've got a current. I'm going to use small letters current, and that's an after for the first time that we do it. Then when we move to the next record, we want this to become the before. So that's the one we were checking. So that becomes the before. And then we go over here. So the current is now the one that we are looking at, because we will still be there. We haven't moved to the next one. We were originally at after, but we haven't moved to the next one. So therefore this one becomes the current, and that one becomes, then we move to the next one, that becomes the after, and so on. So that's how we move through this. So it's going to keep doing this every single time, if that makes sense. And if it doesn't match, if the before and the after don't match with the current, if they're all different, then we know we have found a unique one. So if we look at this case, for example, in this case, that is not the same as that, and that's not the same as that. Therefore, B is unique. So display the current one. Okay, so I think that's going to work. Let's test it. Okay, so we're going to display a unique list. They gave me an answer, so let's go compare it. So there we go. I pulled up the list, and it is almost correct, but you see there's one extra one. Yet that maybe the last one is a special case. So let's think about that for the last one. So let's go back here. So if the last one is unique, let's go here. Then this is not going to work. It's going to come down to here, and it can't find the next one, so that's going to be an issue, so that it won't be able to do that. Okay, so how do we stop that? So how about if the last one's unique, the only thing we need to check with it is if the previous one is different to it. That's how you know the last one's unique. There's nothing after it, so we know we're going to go through the entire list. So how about we just do this? This is probably the easiest way to do it. Once I'm finished doing my loop and I'm happy and all that, that's great. I'm going to go back one, TBL, because I would probably have the current one. So TBL creatures, and you can go back one. You can say dot prior, so like dot next, but it goes back one. Go back one, and we want to go get its value. So at the moment we have the current one, so this would then be the before one, would be this one. So the before equals to the creature type, so we go do that. So go get the creature type of the one before, because our current will still be at the correct one. So we've got the before one, we went back one and just fetched the one before. Probably could have gotten from here, but I just did that just to make it easier. And we've still got the current one. So if in this case, the current one is not the same as the one before, because it's the last one, because we gone through all of them and we're just checking the last one again just to double check, then obviously this is a special case. So we're then going to add that particular one to the list because it's a unique one that just happened to be on the last one, if that's the case. So let's test that quickly. And there we go. We get all our results. And there we go. So that's the database question done. For other grade 11 papers, go to our YouTube channel, click on that playlist tab, and you can see all the topics are available, and there will be RT grade 11 papers there for you to practice on. Leave a like, leave a comment, please subscribe, and remember, don't do it the long way, do it the Mr. Long way.